And we're live.
Live.
Good
You
morning,
didn't tell me
Joel.
we were going to be live. No, I'm just kidding. I'm ready for this.
Awesome.
Well,
Well, I'm super excited to finally have you on here, Julie.
yeah, this is great. Thanks for
Yeah,
inviting me.
you're a little bit nervous, I guess. First off, coming on,
Just
but
a little bit.
yeah,
I've got some big shoes to fill with Jeff coming before me, but
yeah, yeah,
I'll do my
awesome.
best.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm super excited to introduce you to everyone here that in our group and also through the Facebooks. So, Julie, maybe you could give us just a little bit of a background, and then we'll go into what you actually do with us and why you're on Wednesdays specifically. So,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
could you do
That
just
sounds
a quick
good.
intro?
So I come from a real estate and lending background for the past 20 years in sales. And in 2018, towards the end of 2018, I launched a brand on Amazon with my son, who's now 10 years old. It's in the educational games space. And we weren't really thinking of doing that at all, but he had an experience in the hospital where he created a game for kids and he really wanted to see kids everywhere enjoying it and learning from it. So I did
Hmm.
some research and we decided to go with a Kickstarter to begin, and then we launched on Amazon. And so I've been learning a lot about the space, and I've gone to a lot of the conferences and in the groups, and I heard you speak at an event, and that was I think about a little over a year ago. And I remember after hearing you speak, I said, wow, I really want to work with that group. And I reached out to you to see if you had any openings, and thought I could use my background in sales and building customer relationships to work with you. And we spoke for a while, right? We had some
Yep.
communications for a few months,
Yep.
and then right around when shelter hit and we were in quarantine, I think you reached out and said, "Can you start on Monday?" And I was thrilled to hear from you. So from then,
Yeah.
I've just been it's been on, and I've been learning so much and just loving working with you guys.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've loved having you on board too. So I think you understated that follow up, that or the communication. You were dead set. You were following up for about a year to try and get to work with us. So yeah, persistence definitely pays off. And it just so happened that what I needed was someone who was super persistent and understood e-commerce as well, of course. So that was a perfect fit. So
Excellent.
what Julie actually does, we don't have an official um, title necessarily. I think we put on your signature sales executive or
Sales executive.
associate. Yeah,
We were thinking of
sales
associate
executive.
broker or sales executive, but we went with sales executive for now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So for the moment, that's the official title, I guess. But what you really do and why you're on a Wednesday is you're the first wave of contact and filtering for buyers. So as
Right.
buyers reach out to us, as we're promoting a deal into the market, you're really the front line when it comes to meeting these folks. So typically on a Wednesday, we talk about what buyers want Wednesday, which is
Nice.
cool. But today we're actually going to go through your first-hand experience of dealing with all types of buyers. We're going to talk about different types of buyers you've been talking to. But what I really want to start with,
Yes.
other than now that people know who you are and what you do, is what was your impression? So you've come from, you saw me speak, we started talking, you're
Yeah.
in the Amazon world already. What
Yeah.
was your impression of the buyers you'd be talking to and how it would feel working with us versus what it actually is like? And feel free to be unfiltered here if
Okay.
it's horrible. Tell us.
No, no, it's great. Well, I didn't realize it would be so fast paced, which is exciting. I More recently, I've been working in the lending industry. So previously on the real estate side, it is very fast paced, but not so much on the lending side. There's a little more time to breathe. And I found that working with you guys, there's just so much to handle and so much going on, and it is really fast paced. It keeps it exciting. Um, I didn't really have too many preconceived notions about what the buyers would be like, although I thought it would be one buyer coming in and he or she wanted to buy one business, and that was it. But instead, we have multiple groups approaching us who are looking for a number of businesses, and to do roll ups, some to buy 3 businesses a year. So I didn't realize that the buyers would be in a position and have an interest in buying multiple businesses. And also, I heard you on a podcast a while back talk about some, I believe it was brothers that you had that were buyers that had significant capital. And I thought, oh, okay, so he has, one buyer who has that capacity and that sort of capital. But I was really amazed at the amount of funding that a lot of these buyers have, and they're ready to buy. So that was pretty impressive.
That's awesome. I often say that cash is a commodity, and I don't think you really get that until you experience that. Once you start seeing the wave, and it was right as you started, there was this increase in buyers, right, that came through, and we had 2 deals active, which is very rare for us. We normally do 1 deal at a time, but there just happened to be 2 deals live, kind of overlapping a little bit. So you had double the workload that we'd normally handle anyway. So that was kind of fun. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the different buyer types. So for context, the 2 deals we're working on, one was a 7-figure deal, one was an 8-figure deal. So there's some crossover, but some buyers are just very different. So we'll go through the different buyer types and if you could just give us sort of your impression, your overview of each buyer type. I talk about this stuff all the time. So where would you like to start? Which type of buyer?
Well, initially we heard with the 8-figure deal, we heard from a few family offices that were looking to get into the space. Some, I think, originally poured in looking at the business, and then a couple of others just wanted to find out more about the space in general and maybe even just be debt providers, which has actually been a good resource for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with one of the family offices, they have, partners who are really well connected in retail and would offer some significant upside for the business. So that was interesting.
Absolutely. And even in the family office space, so a family office typically means you have enough capital, or one family has enough capital that they need. It makes sense to build a group to manage that capital for them. So you don't use a wealth manager anymore. If you've got $50, $100 million, $1 billion in the bank, you typically can hire an office to manage those funds for you. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best type of buyer. So like you mentioned, some of them have leverage, some of them don't. Some of them are new, and some of them are just looking to provide debt because they're interested in the space, but they kind of want to dip their toe in, but not actually go buy something. So it's kind of interesting seeing that perspective.
Yes. Some other buyers that we spoke with are FBA owners themselves. So that we found a lot with the 7-figure brand, other Amazon sellers who are looking for brands in similar niches to do sort of add-ons with their existing business. We saw a few of those with the larger deal as well, but I would say that was more on the 7-figure, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That they were looking to grow by acquisition and looking for an add-on there.
Yeah, for sure. And who else have we got? What else could we say about other sellers? Did you get the sense, so I've had this question in the past, but did you get the sense of any of those existing FBA sellers or business owners, did you get the sense that any of them were just wanting to see the profitable products? Or do you think they were literally going for the acquisition? And how did you filter that on the front end?
Well, we are very protective with our sellers' information. So I think that's part of the reason that I'm on board, is to call the buyers and vet them and do Zoom calls with them, get to know them. And I think for the most part, certainly for anyone that we released information to, I think they were legitimately interested in the whole brand and growing by acquisition. There were a few that I did speak with that they just kind of wanted to find out which listings they were and get info on the business and the profitable products, and we can sniff that out. So we're protective of our sellers' info, and we don't release that information.
And you were super awesome on the way you handle that stuff. I've gotten a little bit I've got a bit of a hard edge over the years, but you're still very very nice and polite about it. So that's awesome. That's probably helping us win friends at the moment. So that's great.
Well, I really
Awesome.
enjoyed it. Everyone's got an interesting story and a different story, so it's really great meeting them and learning about them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So
We
what's next?
PE groups. So we spoke with a lot of PE buyers. Some of them who were brand new to e-commerce, and I think the news of Thrasio, I think, has really helped bring a lot of people into the space recently, and who are looking to do this as a new model and do the roll-ups. And then we still had quite a few PE groups that did have or do have e-com experience. So those were.
And yeah, with the private equity groups, the key thing there is how are they funding, right? Because it's super easy to just call yourself a private equity group, but you spend a lot of time getting to know them, like you said, on Zoom calls, following up, and checking their funding sources as well as their operating capability. Because if they're not a fit or they're not ready to go, we're not talking about
we'll talk to you in the future.
Yes, exactly. Come tell us when you've got your funding.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Awesome.
And many of them we do see the proof of funds that we actually want to see that, and they're willing to send it. So that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And then who else have we got?
We have some individuals that have sold their brick and mortar businesses and are looking for something new. They're, they know that e-com is the way of the future, and they're excited to learn more about that. Some of those would be a good fit. Others, maybe I don't know if they're sure of what's involved yet, so they might be at the beginning of their process and have to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
To get there.
What's the type of conversation or phrases or questions that they're asking or you're asking to kind of figure out where someone's at that point in time?
Well, I do like to find out, have they done any other deals in the past? Do they have any LOIs out? What they're looking for from the current owner once they close. So a lot of people are looking for the owner to stay on and help manage the business. And we find with most of our clients, it's really not what they're interested in doing. Usually they've already started a new brand or want to move on to the next venture. So in many cases they say, okay, well, that's fine. We could put management in place. But other times, if they're really looking for that owner to stay on, it may not be a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, cool. Awesome. This is fun. I hope everyone's enjoying this as much as I. This is cool. Awesome. So yeah, I'll let you keep talking.
We had quite a few guys that have worked with hedge funds in the past. They were pretty interesting. And again, I just couldn't believe every day it was like, okay, we've raised 200 million, we've raised 500 million, 90 million. So there were some big dollars, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the cash is definitely the easiest piece to put together, especially for these hedge fund guys. I get the sense of some of them that we've talked to, and I'm sure you've had other conversations like this, where it seems like between them and their friends, they have many millions of dollars to deploy, but they're mostly spreadsheet guys. They're not operators, right? So it's trying to figure out where they're at or who they've got to bring in. And like you said, a lot of them just want, hey, don't these come with operations? Because businesses have operations. Like, they don't get how lean these businesses can be, and that's why they're so profitable. So it's kind of interesting.
I do like to find out if they have any familiarity with Amazon and how to run that type of a business. And we can of course recommend management companies, which in this case would be helpful for those types of groups, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see.
Cool.
Strategics.
This is a good one.
We love to hunt down strategics for our sellers. So they're not necessarily inbound where they're coming to us, but we do a lot of research to find the right strategics for the businesses and reach out to them. Some of them, they need a specific size. Others, they're not even thinking about acquiring, but at least we can kind of start those conversations. But that's a really fun part of the business too.
Yeah, and we saw on one deal recently, one of the strategics, they were offering distribution. They wanted to talk about becoming a distribution partner. Other times they have, like you said, they haven't thought about acquiring at all, and they might be interested. You've got to be kind of careful with those type of companies, but the size is always the biggest thing that we come up against. Is these most of our clients, even the 8-figure clients, can be too small for a lot of the strategics that are out there. They might be looking for 8 figures of net profit annually, not just 8 figures of revenue. So it's the world is completely different. The more you go up, the more money there is, as I normally say.
Exactly.
Awesome. Cool. But yeah, that was the thing as well on finding strategics. Our whole team in Slack, we're all talking about different strategics that could be a fit for this deal or that deal, and we often brainstorm this on our team meetings, on our sales calls with Jeff. You and I, we're always talking about who could be a fit for this. Or you guys are comparing notes, right? Like, who's Jeff talking to? Who are you talking to? How can we bring them together? That's
it's a lot of fun. I love matchmaking, and Jeff says he imagines me with like an FBI wall with all the the profiles behind me, and I'm matching them up. It is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I think that's your superpower, actually, is connecting the dots. As you mentioned in passing, the debt providers that have come through recently. And I spoke to one of them last week about another project we're working on. They're also very interested in that, which is great. But mostly they wanted to get on the phone to thank us for all the business we were sending at us. So, well, that's Julie connecting all these dots for you. And I think we may have sent 7 or 8, I think, and they said they'd written offers on all but one of them. So that actually provided options.
Good to hear.
So all of that work you're doing on the connecting side is actually not only helping our clients, but building that network and that base. So if you ever need anything from them, reach out, because they're going to be super happy to hear from you.
Well, we like that. We want to be the hub of our network, and that's what we're here for. We want to provide that value. That's good.
Yeah. How did you start doing that? Did you read about that? Have you always been a connector?
I think I'm a natural connector. I think with real estate, you are the hub of the network, and you're referring your clients to so many different people, appraisers and lenders, and it's, you're just the hub, and contractors. So I think like that when I hear of something, a need that someone has, I immediately think of, okay, who can fill that need? Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah, I definitely appreciate that. That's awesome. I think everyone should do more of that to get outside of their own comfort zone and figure out how to help other people. It can also help you quite a bit as well. Nice. Awesome. Yeah. And we just had, on my list at least, we had one more, which was search funds. Did you have any other buyers to talk about?
No, just search funds. And I feel like I haven't had that much exposure, just 1 or 2 calls. Do you have something to add?
I'll start this off, and as Jeff has a number of times on these lives held up the book, The Messy Marketplace, because it's literally on his desk.
Nice.
I also got you to read this before you even started
twice
the conversation. Right, exactly, because it's really important to understand once you're in this industry where the buyers are coming from and what to ask, what types of buyers there are. And there's just such a huge universe of search funds out there. In another group I'm a part of, I got connected with a portal for search funds where they can go get funding, and it's backed by a lot of these universities, the top business schools that run the MBA programs where all these guys come from, and girls. What they do is they might have a career as a corporate. They go and do their MBA, and a lot of the classes in the top schools are entrepreneurship through acquisition. And it's kind of tricky. The professors are teaching this as a concept, but the professors and their friends are investing in the students that want to go do this. So it's brilliant if you think about it, because there's a lot of businesses out there that don't have an operator, that don't have a CEO to take over from the founder, and there's a lot of founders that are retiring and have no succession plan. They don't have kids, or the kids aren't interested in taking over the business or whatever, you know. And so these guys come out and they're looking for deals like this. So in our space, it's kind of interesting. Has been a shift in the last couple of months where some of these search funders are looking for e-commerce businesses specifically. Traditionally, if you read their materials of what they're trained, it's all about legacy businesses. They want 20, 30 years of history. They want really stable businesses. Whereas a lot of our clients are fast growing, high margin, some risk, right? Because they're single channel focus or something like that. So the big thing with search funders is getting them across the line so that they understand the business model and are comfortable with it, can run it, but then they need to sell their investors on funding this type of deal because it's different. They're backing that search funder, but they also need to sign off on the deal.
Right.
So that's
so you're
the thing that we're
probably two sales there. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And we know that we need to make a second sale if we're working with a fundless sponsor or a independent sponsor, that those names are kind of interchangeable. So yeah, just because they have a fund behind them doesn't mean that they can fund. There's another version of this where some private equity funds actually fund the searcher so that they can put on their documents or their website that they're funded by this private equity group. What they're funding is their time to go find a deal. They're not committing to funding the deal. So that's kind of interesting to know as well. It's very easy to be impressed by their backgrounds, having MBAs, having these big private equity groups backing them. But once you understand what it actually takes to get the deal done, and if it's their first deal, it's just such a huge hurdle and such a long time frame to deal with. So this is what you and I have been talking about when it comes to search funds or independent sponsors and how to think about them, right? And get that kind of feedback. They're really nice people, don't get me wrong. We love chatting to them and getting to know what they're looking for, but we just know that there's those hurdles in place.
Exactly. Yes. And I think an important point to add on with any of these groups, we're really trying to figure out how they see value. Right. And do you see anything in particular with the search funds from your experience with how they value these types of businesses? Are they prepared for these?
So they always misprice the deal 9 out of 10 times. So not always, 9 out of 10 times they'll misprice it. If they misprice it too high, it makes me feel like they're not going to be able to support that once they actually go get funding. One of the strategies a lot of the search funders use is they say, we'll give you this great multiple and these amazing deal terms and to get you to sign up on it because they know no one else is going to be there at that level. And then they've got to go get the cash. Whereas another buyer might have funding already lined up or investors on board already or a committed fund or something and can move faster, but will offer more in line with what we're expecting, or maybe a bit above if there's competition like there usually is when we're marketing a deal, right? Thanks to you and what you're doing, right? is building competition. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that as well, unless you have anything else to add on the search funders, and then we'll go into competition and how that actually plays out.
I think that's it there. So do you want to start with the competition or?
Yeah, so we typically, when we launch a deal, we have a 3-week window, no list price. We ask the buyers to come through with their offers. So when we're promoting the deal, what do you typically see once we have no list price, which is quite different to most deals in our space?
Right. So we do get a lot of questions about, what the seller is expecting. So we can send comp data to give a range of values for a similar type of business that's closed. So that helps them understand, okay, what is the seller anticipating? Are we in the same range? And usually within the first few weeks, we have multiple IOIs from people. We're setting up many buyer-seller calls, and then we'll see multiple IOIs on a business. So I just kind of follow up, try to keep all the buyers in the loop and let them know what's happening, that we have other indications coming in. So I think just keeping everyone informed, I help move that process along. and
Yes.
hopefully help with deadlines there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always interesting to me, and I think you've been surprised by this too, when because we don't use list prices, when we're doing that initial buyer vetting, you, asking how they see value can
Mhm.
be um, very interesting, right? Because they can
Right,
see things completely different. We've had buyers say to us, well, we believe the range is this for e-commerce businesses, and others say we believe the range is this. So
right,
getting their comfort levels is very interesting before we even do comp data, because that's why we do this. We want to know
right.
how they would value the business, and we don't want to limit what they're going to pay for the business. And that one eight-figure deal we've got in diligence right now, that one did go above the market rate. So
Mhm.
it was the total deal value is well above, but even the deal structure as it is, without any upside, is above the market range, which is kind of cool, right? To
Yeah,
say
that's
we know we got better than the market average. So
right. And we do listen out for those phrases that we'll hear where you can tell the buyer's looking for more of a distressed asset, and that's
mm,
not, yeah, really what we're representing, because we're trying to get the best results for our clients. So those that are really seeking, value, something that, they'll say something where the seller just wants to get out of the business, and um, yeah, that's
yeah,
not really well suited for a lot of our clients.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of the portfolio buyers in this space just won't compete. They won't come into a bid process, right, or
Mhm.
commit to a bid process, and that's fine too.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, we spent a lot of time on outbound, which was the past couple of weeks. That's been your day in day out, right? It's
Right.
just
Yes,
follow up, reach out, follow up, reach out. So
exactly.
yeah, but it gets
Yes.
the result. It's the thing to do. But
Yeah.
I often say that we launch one deal at a time to give our
Mhm.
whole team to the room to focus on a deal. And
Right.
we did have two deals briefly for
Mhm.
a brief crossover period. Um, how do you think you would be able to do what you do with us if we had four deals? Where do you think the limit would be of how many deals you could do and still stay sane?
Well, I
um,
think I think the way you guys have structured things where we all kind of have our own lane that we're working in, I think
yeah,
it's very possible that we could still, because our goal is to give everyone very focused personal attention and high level of service. So I think even with 4 or 5 deals, as long as we're all focused on our what our specialty is, then
yeah,
I think we can manage it. And
yeah,
if we get to a point where we can tell it's getting a little difficult or challenging, it makes you think more creatively about, okay, how can we still provide this level of service, and what is something that maybe one type of test that we is not bringing that much value, and how can we handle that and
yeah,
really
for
focus on,
sure.
yeah, each of us providing the most amount of value.
Hmm, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
interesting hearing your perspective on this because I know real estate's very much a volume game,
Yeah.
whereas ours is more a high touch, high
Hmm.
output kind of environment where it's not just put up a listing and wait for buyers to come to us. We're pushing it into the market. So yeah, I think as we continue to build the team, we can increase that bandwidth. But man, it can get stressful, right? Just when you've got so much piling up in the inbox and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, it is fast paced, but that's what I like about this. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Keeps it interesting, right? You
Right.
just
Yes.
don't know who you're going to talk to next. So
Exactly.
awesome. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we're coming up to the end of the half hour here. Is there
Okay.
anything else that you'd like to talk about and kind of give people a little bit more insight into what your day to day looks like?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me on today. And for those of you that are listening, I think it'd be nice to get to know you guys a little bit better. So reach out to
Yeah.
us and let us know your story and what you need help with on either the
Yeah.
buy side or the sell side. We're here, and we'd love to be a resource for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So as always, reach out sales@thefbabroker.com. That actually goes to a help desk. So our whole team is in there and it'll be passed to the right person. So yeah, definitely reach out. And I didn't mention this before, but Julie's on vacation this week. So that's some dedication right there to jump on this live. So appreciate
It's been
you
fun.
you jumping on, and yeah, get back to the holiday, have fun with the family,
All
and
right.
we'll see you next week
Thanks,
when you're back.
Lauren. Bye, guys. Take
Thanks,
care.
Julie. Cheers.
Bye.